from don't make it out. I know that I'm blessed. There's a few L's and millions, so turn that loss to a check.
I'm probably most excited about this today with you, just because I feel like you're one of the few people I've known almost the entire time that I've been here in Colorado, and I feel like we've both been through a lot together. For those of you that don't know Shannon Byerly, I share this story often with other agents in the industry, but if there was a phrase or something I could use to describe her, I would say salt of the earth, somebody who really has an incredibly unique ability to frame things in a positive way, in a way that serves you and that serves other people. We're in an industry that can be very negative. The world can be very negative, and I've always admired that about you. But one of the top agents for Coldwell Banker, and when you first started, I believe you were Rookie of the Year.
So I was Rookie of the Year when I
Okay.
first started. And actually now I'm Shannon Pace, which
Shannon
is kind
Pace,
of exciting.
yeah, sorry, Shannon
But that's
Pace, yep.
okay. A lot of my time was Byerly. And yeah, I got to be Rookie of the Year, which is crazy because the first 6 months I had not sold a transaction.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you remember this, but I asked you because at the time there was somebody else that you had kind of started in the industry with.
Yes.
And I think both of you came from oil and gas. Is that right?
Well, she came from chiropractor, but we both were
Chiropractor,
moms.
both moms.
Yeah, both moms and both new to the business.
Okay, both new to the business, both with the same company. So arguably somebody could say, well, they both had the same opportunity.
Absolutely.
Right? And she was from Colorado as well?
Yes.
Yep. So both from Colorado, both had a sphere, same opportunity, and yet, Shannon goes on to become Rookie of the Year. Now runs an amazing team, super successful, has accomplished what some agents would only dream of, and yet this other agent got out of the business. And I remember asking you, what do you think made the difference? And you had said two things at the time. You said, one, I knew at the time that I didn't really know what I was doing, but I had aligned myself with a couple of people that did, a couple of lenders where I just knew if I referred them over that they could convert even when I didn't know how. And the other thing is you said you became very particular with the classes that you would go to, realizing that the industry is made up of people in lending and title that just constantly throw classes, and you can kind of use it to procrastinate if you're not careful. So I thought that was a really interesting perspective, especially for somebody that was brand new in the industry. So Shannon Pace, everybody, I'm glad you're here. I'm excited that you're here, and we're going to jump into this. So for those that don't know who you are, why don't you just tell everybody who Shannon Pace is?
So I grew up in Littleton, Colorado. So I'm a native, which is rare here in Colorado. I grew up, my mom and dad, both in the Littleton area, then my sister Allie. So we were a great little family together. My parents got divorced when I was around 15, and later on in life, I've been super lucky to be in so many facets. So I went on to college at UNC. I got married and got to learn about the floral business. Also got to be a part of the Arvada community and even Vail. So I feel, and then after that, I ended up going into oil and gas. I was a single mom. I would basically say that from the time that we got divorced, I realized I needed to be able to provide for my children. So that was something that was new for me because I had been a stay-at-home mom for so long. And so that's really where it takes me to real estate.
You got laid off from the oil and gas career.
Correct.
And then it was like, and I remember you sharing this story with me, but I'd love for you to share it again because you got laid off from that industry and now you're a single mom going, what the hell am I going to do? Like, how am I going to make money?
So it was really scary because not only that, I did find out I had a second mortgage that was coming due. I didn't understand principal only.
Did you not know that you had that at the time?
I did not. And it was 2011, so home values were not ideal. I could not sell my home. one thing that was a big goal of mine was to be able to keep the kids in the home, and obviously to be able to keep the kids, happy and in their schools, and to be able to be a mom. So all of a sudden found myself laid off, which at the time was devastating. I couldn't even understand what my next move was going to be. I would even say like fetal position pretty much describes where I was at. And I happened to watch the Today Show because I had time. And they did a awesome broadcast on women that had later changes in their career. So they brought on these different ladies that were doing new things and a little later in life. And there was a real estate agent that came on, and I thought, real estate, wow, I never thought of that as something that I could do. But this severance package that I received, which I'd only been there for 18 months, so such a godsend that I was actually on the first line of layoffs because I still received a severance package, which allowed me to take Knight's real estate school because 10 years ago, that was a thing. And I took it, and that was able to allow me to start into the business. So that sometimes your very darkest days are meant to be to show you the light.
I think you've been through a lot of dark days, and but I would say that without those dark days, you often can't appreciate the other side of that when things are incredible, right? Like if all you do is win, 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 success, success, everything's perfect, right? You sort of you take it for granted a little bit, right? Like you don't have that perspective.
Right. And you
so,
can't empathize.
Did you, so you were in the fetal position. I love how like, even when you say that, you like say it with a smile and with a positive attitude. I was in the fetal position. It was fantastic. And I saw this broadcast but had anybody talked to you about real estate prior to that? Or you literally just saw this broadcast and you're going, man, like, well, maybe if these women can do it later in life, and not later in life, like you're still super young, but at the time you felt like you had been through a lot of transition, and now it's like, what am I going to do? So you saw the broadcast, you say, you know what, I'm going to take some of the money that I got from the severance, I'm going to go get my license. And then you started with Coldwell Banker, I believe, right?
Right. From the very jump. Huh. And, I was lucky to get a fabulous managing broker at the time, Andy Summer. And he took all of us new agents under his wing. We also had a fantastic office. I have very high producing agent friends where we all kind of started at the same time. And it was such a great culture and a great place of learning for me.
What do you think the difference was with having an amazing managing broker versus like if you didn't have that? Because I know Andy, I know that he has an amazing reputation. Like anybody that I've talked to about him, they're like, oh, he's fantastic. He's always there. He really provides valuable insight. What was it, if you were to describe what made him so good at what he did, what would that be?
Accountability. He made us accountable. So we were to meet with him, and it's up to your discretion in the industry as we're all independent contractors, but we were allowed to meet with him once a week, and we could meet with him for 30 minutes. And we went through our soft leads, our warm leads. We went through what we were going through under contract. And I think that was the biggest game changer for me, is I didn't want to go back the next week and be like, so I spoke to no one.
Right. Well, I was going to ask, like, what if you show up and you have no leads? What does he tell you?
How many people did you talk to? How many business cards did you give out? Are you being a secret agent? Because a secret agent will never be a top producing agent. And you've always managed to spend time with people that have seen success in the industry. You've always had some version of a coach as long as I've known you. What would you say to the person that is early in their career? They're going, man, I don't have any money to hire a coach, but like, I don't know if my managing broker's that person. Like, but how do I be? And I think a lot of people have a hard time asking for help, right? There's sort of this, like, I want to figure it out on my own, or I don't want to bug them because they're so busy. And we sort of talk ourselves into not getting help. But what would you say to the person that is in that place? Like, would you encourage them to get a coach, or what would you have them do if you were coaching them? I think if you're really brand new, you have to be careful about what you're spending on. Just because, you're really, that cash flow can be difficult. But you investing in maybe ninja training, that was super helpful for me to start out with. The mindset, it also gave accountability within the program itself. So I did that. I also did Chris Leader. Leader's Edge has a weekly phone call that you can listen to with the ability to do questions and answers. And I believe that's $30 a month, something. It's very affordable on that line. But really, if money going out is just not available, I would recommend asking a top agent how you can be helpful. Can I host your open houses? Can I shadow you on a listing appointment? What can I do to help you? Because I just want to learn from you. And top brokers, I think a common denominator is that they want to give back. I think that is really a common denominator with top agents.
Yeah. And I think that when you find yourself in that position where you're giving back, there's so much that you get out of it, right? And now you run a team,
yes,
right? So you have the blessing really to be able to help other people directly. And I think that when you have the ability to do that, not only does it remind you, right, of where you came from, but it also helps you sharpen your saw, right? Because you're like,
absolutely,
man, like I kind of forgot about that. And right, you got to show up at a high level too, right? Because now people are looking to you as the leader.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
What's that been like running a team?
Well, it's a learning curve like anything else, but I'm so proud of them. I have really amazing people that I've aligned myself with. Having a process in place to help them and having the camaraderie and the coaching and then seeing what it leads them to is just an amazing experience. And we're going on our 3rd year already, which is unbelievable. And we're in the top team for the first quarter list. And I'm just, more than the numbers, it's more seeing them grow as agents has been a amazing part to be part of.
So I want to go back to the team thing in a minute, but I want to back up to like your earlier days in the industry. And, I think that so much of this industry is you could be the best salesperson. You could have the best process. You could know exactly what to say. Like you could have all that dialed in, but if you have no one to say it to, it doesn't matter. Right.
True.
And one thing that you were always so great at, and even today you're great at it, is prospecting. You always, like, I remember there would be times where it'd be several weeks and I wouldn't hear from Shannon. And then all of a sudden there's 10 clients that you're like, Derek, I need to talk to you. I need you to talk to these people and get them pre-approved. So what was that like? Like, what is it that you would do to cultivate those leads?
Yeah. So it really helps for you to have somebody trusted like yourself to give those leads over to, because you guys are so great about following up on it and giving us that, hey, I've spoken to Mr. Buyer, and Mr. Buyer is doing the application process. That really helped me so much. And we kept kind of a list between the two of us of making sure we were keeping up on things. But getting that prospecting of keeping in touch and doing soft touches, trying to see where you can create value in your services. Maybe it's somebody that's new to Colorado and you reach out to them. I know you're new to Colorado. Do you need any lists of doctors, hairdressers, anything that I can help with? Or just for those people that you already have met at an open house, just making sure that you're staying consistent and doing a pattern of taking notes and knowing where they're at, so that when you talk to them next, you're right back on the same page as where you left off.
Were you contacting your sphere? Were you doing open houses? Were you dealing with how did you cultivate the leads?
So that's a great question. I would say my sphere of influence is amazing, and they give me a ton of leads now. When you're a new agent, it's a little harder, so you have to have a couple spinning plates. So your best money is always spent on your sphere of people you know, but you shouldn't forget who the other people are. Then we also did door knocking, which is kind of changed, but we were able to meet in fact, pastors that led us to $10 million worth of real estate into business. And not only that, but cultivated a friendship. And she actually married me as she was my pastor in our wedding, which was so great. But that came from door knocking. So
you met the pastor from door knocking.
Yeah. Yep. Door knocking.
Hey, did you guys all hear that? Like that, it just goes to show that cold calling, door knocking, those things work. You know, there's ironically, in an interesting turn of events, there's another company that I'm launching right now. It's called fightfingers.com. You can check it out. We just had our device patented. It's for jiu-jitsu fighters. And what they do is they mess up their fingers a lot, right? And so all they've ever been able to do is tape their fingers. Now it's a device that's got a composite interior. It loops around the fingers that are broken or damaged. It keeps them held together strong. But then there's like a silicone sort of jelly exterior, so it doesn't, like, it's not going to hurt the other person you're fighting against. It allows them to stay immobile but still mobile, and it protects them. Anyway, we just got the patent on this thing, and
Oh, cool.
my business partner, who is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, who invented this, I met him from cold calling when I first came to Colorado. He was an agent at the time, and now he's transitioned into running this company and invited me to be a part of it, which is super exciting. But it just goes to show that cold calling, door knocking, it can work, but I think it can only work with the right mindset and attitude, right? Like, I think if somebody goes into it thinking, like, what am I going to get out of this? Or open houses never work, or that sort of attitude, guess what? You're right.
Yeah.
You know, and something you've always been fantastic at is framing. And I really am excited to talk to you about this today, because I don't know if it's something you do sort of subconsciously, or if it's something that you've somehow developed. You know that you are fantastic at it and you've strengthened that, but you've gone through a lot. And anytime I've ever talked to you about any particular situation that you've gone through, you would just have this uncanny ability to talk about everything else that's going well in your life, right? Like, it wasn't like you were sweeping it under the rug. Like, you would acknowledge it and address it, but it was like, but here's the positive side to it, right? You would always see the positive side. Tell us a little bit about that, if that's a skill you've developed, and B, are you, is that something that has served, like, how has that served you in real estate?
So I started reading The Secret when I first got into the business, and you and I have talked about that. And I, before that, my daughter was very premature. My water broke at 24 weeks. I was hospitalized on bed rest, and someone brought me the video of The Secret. And so when Dr. Doom and Gloom would come in,
person.
right? Forever. Yep. Mm-hmm. And Denise, thank you very much for doing that for me. Whenever Dr. Doom and Gloom would come into the room, I would listen to what they said, but I would envision a positive outcome. So I'd envision the feeling of having Ava be born. The feeling of
was
what
this
it was
after
going
you
to be
watched
like.
The Secret?
This was
Before?
after. Before, I was just terrified. I mean, they have to tell you everything, but it was terrifying. So once I had The Secret, it not only helped in that way. I go back to it at any time in my life when I'm having a dark moment. Like, we all struggle. We all go through periods of time where things are not aligned very well. And it's back to my basics. So if things look like I'm starting to shift into more negative kind of mindset, I'll go back and reread chapters. I've probably read that book 15 times. It's not so much the book as it is a reminder of that you can create your own life. If you believe in yourself and you believe in an outcome, you can make it happen. Now, the universe doesn't care if it's negative or positive, so be careful of what you wish for.
Yeah, for sure. I was just talking about this book the other day with somebody, and Rhonda Byrne was one of the speakers in The Secret.
Yes.
She came out with a book called The Magic,
Yes.
which is another fantastic book all about gratitude, gratitude in every area of your life. And we've talked about this a lot, but it's one of those things where I feel like it's like a muscle that you can develop, right? And it's something that anybody can do, you know. But oftentimes I wonder, like I look at my own mom, right? And her whole life she's been super, super negative and pessimistic. Now I love my mom, and my mom is very loving.
Yeah.
Okay, but she's always glasses half empty kind of a person. And I remember back to like high school where like I'm her son trying to like kind of like coach her up to think positive. And, you know, now she's, I think 70, 71 years old, and she's the same person. Like, I don't think she'll ever change. Right. But do you think that it's something that if somebody listening to this feels like they're like, man, if I'm being real honest with myself, I am pessimistic. I am negative. I am glass half empty. Do you think it's a choice? And do you think anybody can switch?
I do. I think anybody can. I think just the realization of realizing that you're a pessimist or negative is a great tool to turn it into a positive situation. And it's like you said, it's a muscle. So if you can find the time, I find that everybody that I read about that has great success in life in some way incorporates meditation or in daily prayer, positive self-talk, those things in their life. And I call it my back to the basics. Anytime that I have been in a dark place, that's where I go. But more importantly, now it's become just a part of my routine. So that routine has been so wonderful for myself because we're so busy all the time, we forget to take care of ourselves. You know, you want to take care of, you know, Isa and your baby boy, and I want to take care of Jacob and Ava, but sometimes mom has to, you know, no one's good unless mom's okay.
Yeah. And that's an interesting thing, right? Now I understand it being a parent, but there's this, at least for me, there's like this yearning to like want to be with them and like, don't get me wrong, I need a break sometimes too, right?
Right, we all do.
But there's this like, there's this indescribable love you have where you just want to do anything for them.
Yeah.
But then, you know, you run a successful business and you've made a commitment to yourself, to them, and to your team, and you're responsible for a lot of people. And so how have you been able to like compartmentalize that when you've got your kids that want your attention, but you've also made this commitment to your business, right? Are there ever times where you put business to the side and just give them what they need, or is it something where you kind of believe that, you know, it's caught not taught, and like you have to maintain this commitment because that's the lesson to learn?
So I think it's kind of twofold. I think at first it's really good for each week if you can plan out your week, you put your personal time in first, right? So like for instance, Ava has a play coming up in the middle of the day because at school they're always in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's 11:30, pop on by. So I made sure that this week that is in my calendar and everything else is focused around it. I found that even when I would call people to schedule showings, if I started the time, so if I said, hi, Mrs. Buyer, would you like to see that house at 1:00 or 3:00? They think they're still, you know, in control of the time, which they appreciate, but really you're in control of your schedule. So keeping that is super important. And I've had to step back one time in 2022 when my children lost their father and my sister lost her husband in the same year. And it was just the family needed me more. And I'm grateful that I had that time and ability. And then in 2023, I ramped back up. And guess what? It was still there. So I think you just have to be very conscious about how you do it.
You went through two absolutely horrifying events, both directly affected you and you were involved in, and also you have this business. Talk a little bit about when you got this news. You know, what do you remember what immediately went through your mind at that time?
I would say it was so different because when we found out that my sister's husband had terminal stomach cancer, it was such a shock to our system. And it was something that all we could think of is what can we do to support? Like what, and with this time that we have, we want to spend it with Scott as much as possible. Cancer is something that unfortunately so many of us are affected by, but really truly seeing the dynamic of it and seeing my sister have to step up and be this amazing caregiver whilst grieving, I can't say enough positive about her and what she was able to do. And then dealing for my children with the loss of their dad, which was sudden, just realizing that you're the only parent left is a little daunting. It's a great why. So in life, we get told in this industry, you got to know your why. My why got very big. I knew that I was the one that needed to be there both financially and personally for the kids for the rest of their lives. So that was, it allowed me to take a little bit of a back step within my own business, but for the team, I was still able to be available. It just was in a different way. It was more learning how to do some things more remote, which we've still incorporated, but now we're back to meeting in person too.
You know, for anybody else that's going through a difficult time right now where, you know, it could be the loss of a loved one, it could be a loss of hope, right? They've kind of given up, right? Or a lot has happened over the last few years with with COVID and the economy, and I think that there's a lot of people out there that are in a dark place, and they just kind of don't see the point. They don't know where to go from here. Right. What would you say to those people as somebody that has gone through several tragic events and being able to get through it to the other side? Was there anything that you remember consciously doing to put yourself into a better state of mind?
Right. I give a ton of praise to my husband. I have an incredible partner, Michael Pace. When you listen to this, oh my goodness, if I had not had him by my side through these events, I don't know how I would have made it through. So having someone, whether it be your spouse or whether it be a best friend or whether it be a counselor, having someone to lean on, because sometimes we just can't be strong. Mm-hmm. That was very helpful. Garbage in, garbage out, right? So stop listening to that everything is bad and that there's no way out and things are only going to get worse. Start listening to, positive podcasts, to start reading great books, start trying to pull yourself into a better place. And my faith in God has helped me tremendously. And having that daily prayer of being able to know that it's not up to me, and that in life we all experience our things, but that He really wants joy for us.
When did faith come into your life?
I would say I was a little later in life. I got baptized when I was 22 or 23.
Really?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. So really, I did not know that about you.
And then I kind of fell away from the church, and then I went back in, and I feel like that's the story of my life, just sort of these ups and downs. And, I think just who I am as somebody that, at least the story that I'm telling myself is somebody that is just, I don't know, I'm very inquisitive, and, Soli gets a little upset sometimes at this because she's like, why can't you just, isn't it just good enough that you feel good when you go to church and you hear an amazing message? And I'm like, yeah, it is. But also, like, let's talk about Noah's Ark for a second. Like, how did that actually fucking happen? So, and I've talked to pastors about this, other people that I know that are really committed to their faith, and they're like, no, that's actually good that you ask those questions, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to want to know and understand.
Yes.
So you were but that's funny. You were baptized at 22, 23.
Yeah.
What was it that led to that?
I just started to feel like God was knocking on the door. It was strange. I would say it was a wonderful thing, but I felt like I felt like I had a need of wanting to explore my faith, and that I had not done so as a child.
They say that your conscience is the authentic voice of God speaking to you.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think sometimes we just think it's serendipitous. We hear that little whisper, right? But that's a higher power.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sure, God was knocking. You decided to go get baptized, and then ironically, you were door knocking and met a pastor later in life.
Yeah.
That's law of attraction, right?
Right. Passionate Life Church. They are so sweet. So that was great. I've went to their church for a long time. My kids got very involved in Red Rocks Church, community church, and that's something that has been wonderful for them, why they struggled with the loss of their father and their uncle. It's also something that I've tried to keep when in times of good too. But I know exactly what you're talking about. Sometimes I felt like I was church shopping, but
That's us right now.
yeah, and you find a home, and I think sometimes the home changes, just like and that's okay. And I think that sometimes we get tied into the building more so than the fact that we just need to that we're allowed to be closer to God.
That's cool. Yeah, we're kind of doing that right now. Like we've spent time at Red Rocks, and we really like the message at Red Rocks. But there's so many good churches out there, and I don't know. I think if my wife were sitting here, she'd say faith has played a huge role in her life and any trauma that she's been through. I don't know that I would say that for myself, but what I would say is when I've been broken and on my knees, that's when I'm seeking God, and it shouldn't be that way. And like, I'm not proud of that necessarily, but that it's almost like that's when God is trying to be closer to us, right? Is in moments of darkness. So you have your amazing husband that was there for you, your faith that you had the ability to fall back and connect on. What about like, were there any like daily habits or practices that you kind of went back to that started to help pull you out of that place mentally?
Right. So I don't look at my phone the first thing. I still use it as the alarm. Should probably just get a different alarm. But I put it, actually, one of my clients taught me that it shouldn't even be in your meditation room if you can put it outside of it. So I start my day off with doing my meditation. In Ninja sales, they say to write down your goal 25 times every day. So the sentence is, I enjoy earning whatever that amount is. So right now I have 1.1 million.
25 times?
Or more this year.
25 times?
25 times.
Wow. How long? Before we go any further, where can people find you though?
Oh, thank you so much. You can find me at yourfreshstartgroup.com.
Okay.
That's our website. Or you can reach me at 303-919-2611. And
Instagram?
My Instagram handle is Shannon Pace Sells Houses.
Good.
And my you can find me on Facebook on my personal page under Shannon Pace, or on my business page under also Shannon Pace, or Your Fresh Start Group.
Yeah. And she has a very interesting life, but also if you're looking at it from a business standpoint, like you'll see the cadence that she puts out there, and it's no wonder you see success from it because you've been doing it consistently for so long. Like, do you track leads at all from social?
We need to do a little bit better job at tracking it, but I would say just off off the cuff, probably about 20%. And I don't do sponsored ads.
Yeah.
I will for listings because I think they can work for listings, but for my own brand and for my own self, they're not sponsored. And a lot of times it's just staying that top of mind. And, they'll say, oh, I saw that you've been selling a ton on, Facebook or Instagram. Oh, I loved your photos on Instagram. I loved your video. Just being, they know that you can get the job done.
So it's once a day on posts. What about reels?
Well, I either do a reel or a post. I'm doing
Reel or
a lot
post,
less
okay.
posts on Instagram, a lot more reels.
Okay.
Facebook, I do a story with a post, and I usually just, the story is very similar. Because what I find is that when you look, you can see your insight on it. The people that are looking at your story are different that are looking at your posts. So I think it does have a good effect.
That's cool. Yeah. And I think you know a lot more about it than most agents. So guys, I'm telling you, follow Shannon, take a look at her social. And then before we wrap up, I want to ask you about just the industry because, and I don't know if you've sensed this, but over the last couple of years, there's just been sort of this intuition that I've had where, I mean, look, real estate's going to go on forever.
Right.
However, there has been just sort of this like shit's changing. Right. And I don't know where it's going to end up over the next decade, but I'm willing to bet it's going to be very different than the last decade. And what got us here is not necessarily what's going to get us there. And so where do you think the future of the industry is going? And then for anybody that's in a place where they're like, man, I want to make more money. I'm in this job that I hate. Maybe, I just got laid off too. And and I've got a situation where I've got to take care of my kids and I've kind of thought about real estate. Like, what advice would you give to that person? And where do you think the future of the industry is headed?
So for the person that's thinking about getting into real estate, I 100% think that this is a fantastic way of being able to create your own business. But I just want them to know, reach out to people. Make sure that you are talking to different brands so you can see who you align with. Talk to top agents if you can get some of their time. Most agents are very giving, but if you could ask them, 3 questions that you have. Mine would be, when you started, what things did you do to create business? Do you do anything consistently daily for prospecting? And what is one thing you would have done differently?
Good
so
questions,
if they could just have those 3 questions and reach out to different agents across the industry, align yourself with a very good lender because you can do everything and do everything right and it will fall apart if you don't have the right lending. And if you're a listing agent, you better know that you have faith in the lender that you are bringing the offer from the buyers. So that is very key on that. So they need to do that. And then educate yourself on the industry and speak positively about it. We have enough naysayers out there. People are always going to move. Yeah. No matter what. Yeah. There is always a need for our industry. So speak positive. We are hurting our own selves. Yeah. So speak positive about it.
I'm so glad you said that because I think, and it's not just our industry, it's really just life and human nature. But guys, you will never meet a super successful person that gets wrapped up in gossip, that's talking about people behind their back. And how, if you think about how you feel when you're talking to somebody and they're talking shit about somebody else and they leave, how do you feel about that person when they leave the scene and they just got done bashing somebody else?
Right.
You don't trust them. It just leaves you feeling a little dirty, right? You don't. But on the flip side, we all know those individuals. I can think of a few right now where every time I speak to them, they're uplifting everybody, right? And you can tell sometimes by that individual's demeanor if they're not ecstatic about the person you're discussing, but they, in my mind, are it's such a beautiful thing to watch somebody that you know might not have a great opinion about the person, but everything that comes out of their mouth is uplifting and is focused on the good about that person. So my 2 cents, be that person, not the person that gets caught up in the gossip.
Right. Yeah, you are who you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with great people, and you will find yourself. You will see who you are. And I tell that to my kids all the time, and my dad taught it to us.
Yeah, environment is so key. I just got done saying your network is your net worth, right?
Yeah.
Like, find people you want to spend time with that are, and like, I never look at, I always want to be the person in the room that has the most to learn.
Right.
Right? Like, which, by the way, is super uncomfortable, right? Because I always feel like imposter syndrome, right? I'm not good enough. There's all kinds of like internal things that come up for me, but it always ups my game, right? I leave those situations when people I know are doing better than me. Like, it's hard for me to listen to somebody in any area that doesn't have what I want. Right? Like, I'm not going to listen to some fat dude about getting in shape and developing 6-pack abs, right?
True.
It's hard for me to listen to somebody that's not making more money than me, right? I'm not judging that. It's just, but I want to follow people that have something that I want that have actually done it.
Right.
What about the future of the industry?
So I think that the future of the industry, I do think that teams have become a bigger impact. It's just hard to be a single agent to do everything. So I think market share could change a little bit along that lines. But we'll incorporate AI quite a bit.
Yeah.
I caution to my agents, you want to do education, but not too much not so much that you're not doing your work, but you need to keep up and don't be afraid of the technology. Embrace it and figure out how it can help you and your clients. I write all the time, and I'm still using AI as like help with my writing too. I mean, it can't hurt.
It gives you perspective.
Yeah, you put it in there, make sure you're reading it. Don't violate any fair housing.
Yeah.
But it is. It's a tool, and it's a productivity tool. So when you're looking at what could change, I think a lot could change in 10 years. But I think that one thing that won't change is the need to have somebody guiding you through this, the most expensive sometimes, or your biggest asset that you may have. So I do think they're going to need lenders, and they're going to need buyers and selling agents, and that's just going to be something that will stay in place.
Do you use AI with writing copy for social?
I do. I'll use it. I mean, I don't copy and paste out of it, but I'll use some things, and it's impressive to see how they can. The results are better. And
you can prompt it to like develop a personality.
Yeah.
Right? Like communicate this in a way that is, way. And you can describe yourself, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it's really cool to see everything that's going on. And like, I've barely scratched the surface with it. Like, I think ChatGPT is about as much as I've looked at.
Right.
But yeah, it's exciting to see where it's gonna go. Thank you so much for coming on. This was a lot of fun. I feel like I could talk for hours about all kinds of different tangents we could get. Yeah, I know. But thank you, and guys, go follow Shannon. We will definitely have her back on the show, and it's great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Turn that loss to a check. Every time that I see a limit, I push right past it. Don't care if you got here first. The one to win is the last one standing. Say my life is like luck. Nah, I had to plan it. The way I work is out of this earth.